Hi everyone, it's Tom with the LEC recap of Week 8 of the LEC Spring Split. As I said on my post in my community tab, which you can see on my channel page, I took today, like yesterday, off on Monday, so I could rest a bit more. It was a very taxing weekend, lots of action happening, so I had to invest a lot of energy, but here we are after all. I am gonna keep the reviews and the recaps of the matches themselves a bit shorter overall, because a lot of them happened and I don't want to make this video too long, so let's just get into it. We kicked off the weekend with SK Gaming versus Rogue, and things went downhill for SK Gaming very early. You could see that they were not having a great day overall. Blue died 3 times in 6 minutes, poor showing of him, and Rogue easily won that game. Even though they I guess had to fight for it, obviously heading into the weekend to secure that playoff spots. They didn't show up on game 1. Then we had Vitality versus Astralis. This game didn't really matter a whole lot, aside from keeping Vitality's hopes for the playoffs alive. But Astralis threw a spanner in the works really early on. They started very aggressively against Vitality. Vitality didn't know how to answer this. I think there was also maybe a bit of pressure from Vitality, whereas Astralis already out of playoffs contention could play more freely. So you could see that this was just a very easy game for Astralis to close out, playing with that confidence, playing without that pressure. And a clip I will share from this is one that has been circulating the League of Legends community already, but White Knights had an incredible performance on the Renekton in the top lane, and this is probably the most standout performance of a Renekton we have seen in a while.
Prefer to be the team that's engaging on the setup, although Lavrov almost getting caught out here by Zanzara. Will have the ability to get away with his ultimate if needs be, and Zanzara now caught. I mean, he has to force a flash away. There's the onslaught of shadows bringing him back into the fight, and Zanzara taken low. The Blade Caller is there. That's huge damage as Milica picks up the first kill. Now White Knight there. Jeskler on the backline. Jeskler still going, but he gets charged down by the pony, and Magi Felix is doing his best with White Knight to try and claw back something in this team fight. It is a 3 versus 2, but Magi Felix is alive, and so is White Knight. That is one damn tanky crocodile. He's going for the triple. He's going for the quadra. Come on, lads. Let him have it. White Knight's going for it. Quadra kill for Renekton. Give him the penta. Get over the wall, White Knight. Get Shagenda. Go for the penta, you absolute madman. Penta kill.
Then we went on to Schalke versus Fnatic, and also for these two teams a lot on the line with the playoff spots in contention. And Schalke had some pretty spicy picks. They picked the Urgot for Broken Blade, and they picked Neon on Seraphine. And from early on, I think Fnatic was very strong. However, this didn't last very long, and Schalke climbed back into the game. I'm not sure entirely what went wrong within Fnatic, because their early game was so good, but when it came to the team fights, Fnatic seems a bit more desperate, and Schalke stayed composed very well and punished these team fights. I think Broken Blade on that Urgot had an incredible game. It's just a very good feeling, right? Landing that Urgot ult and reeling in the enemies, which he did repeatedly. And even though Fnatic eventually did get a Dragon Soul, Schalke struck back really hard, won a team fight, got Baron, pushed in Fnatic's base, broke it open, and from there on Fnatic couldn't do anything anymore. Then we went to Mad Lions versus Misfits, and I think everybody, well, most people, me included, had Mad Lions favored because they had been playing well, and even though they had already qualified for the playoffs, they still probably would want to have a good performance, good showing overall, so they could end highly in the standings, whereas for Misfits, a lot was on the line, obviously, still in playoffs contention as well. And it was a very slow game compared to the other games, and both teams just laning, but you could see that Misfits was finding their confidence, and they were actually, instead of letting those nerves of still being in the run for playoffs get to them, they were playing confidently, they were playing boldly, which I very much liked. They had Veteo on the Silas, and he just had a pop-off game where he continued to deal loads of damage, and Mad Lions just wasn't able to deal with him in that sense. And even though Mad Lions was 8k gold ahead, which is obviously an incredibly massive lead, right? Misfits started fighting back. It ended up being pretty close. Still of the back of mostly Veteo and Vender, who were playing really well. They won the game, and I think an incredible fight is also an image that has circulated the web with Veteo healing a lot mid-team fight, but just to get a showing of how insane his silence performance was.
Up that Mega Narcotic. Kazi's jumped back off of it. There's the stun, there's the onslaught, and BTO almost dead before he can do anything, but he gets the stopwatch up just in time. Razzle looking for the looting lullaby. If it kills off Armored, another down. Elioyo doing what he can from the side as well. BTO still alive in this fight. Kazi gets away, but Kabi going in. Hit it with a double. The feathers fly, and Kaiser! You can pop the stopwatch all you want, but you go pop!
We closed off day one with XL versus G2 Esports, and G2 had been memeing heading into the weekend, oh, let's go 0-3 in the final weekend, because, you know, playoff secured, let's end. And XL, also one of the teams still in playoffs contention for that final spot. And, well, G2 stayed true to their words because they were inting, and XL was playing incredibly impressive. Overall, I think throughout the entire course of the game, you could see that XL was burning with this passion of making it. All of a sudden, after weeks of losing and underperforming, they felt, okay, now we have to step up. And against G2, miraculously, they managed to do so. You saw Patrick, always an incredible player, regardless, playing incredibly well. Torre, who had been having a tough split so far, was playing well versus G2. And yeah, the entire roster just came together as G2. I'm not sure what was happening. I'm not sure how they tried to make sure that XL was going to be kicked out of playoffs, or show that they are still the top team or whatever. I'm not sure what their mentality was, right? It's very difficult to evaluate. But they lost against XL. XL with an impressive victory over G2. Very good showing of them. Something that I think many people would not have guessed happened. Then on day two, we had SK versus Astralis to kick off. It was a very slow game. And once again, Astralis obviously already eliminated, and SK fighting to get their one win. One win is all they needed this entire weekend to make sure that they would make it to the playoffs. But Astralis gave them a tough time, even though it was an incredibly slow game. But until like 25 minutes into the game, it became a bit more entertaining. Astralis already had 3 Drakes at this point, and SK was just too scared to bite. They were avoiding these team fights, and when it mattered, Astralis really showed up and kept winning these team fights, and of that, we have a little clip.
Just to turn games around, and they're going to look for one now, going all in onto White Knight, but that is one tanky Scion. He's slowly but surely going to fall, taking any damage. But it doesn't matter. The entire team is collapsing. SK thought they had their opportunity, but White Knight just refuses to die. My God, it's beautiful. Astralis artists on that engage, painting with the blood of SK. It is violent. It is glorious. And SK, they've got nothing left. He wanted to play spoilers.
We then went on to Schalke 04 versus Vitality, and well, again, Schalke 04 trying to hold on to that playoff spot. And Vitality, I think at this point they were already mathematically eliminated, so nothing to lose for them anymore. Whereas for Schalke 04, everything was still on the line, obviously. So from early on, I would say that Schalke 04 was very present on the map, very much trying to find every opportunity they could in order to make sure that they would still stay in this race. And, well, they did. I think they played very impressively once again. I think in this time, Abadaga is just, for some reason, when it's clutch, this guy is starting to show up. I'm not sure how this works with him, but I hope for his stress levels, or rather the stress levels of the people around him who have to work with him, that he can keep this consistent performance up, because then at some point maybe they will be able to rely on it. But anyway, Schalke 04 played very impressively. And Vitality, even though obviously against Astralis, they also didn't have much of a fight anymore. It seems that against Schalke 04 they had even less energy. I don't think that this was a performance that they'll be happy with. Obviously the performance doesn't really matter for the standings for them anymore, or for their playoffs chances, but still I think you want to end the weekend on a good note. And this is something that Schalke 04 absolutely did. They kept their dreams alive against Vitality. Super impressive performance again from them overall. And yeah, people kept saying, oh, Schalke miracle run. No, stop it. That term has been overused. It was a miracle run when they went 0-7 last summer split. Shut up. It's not a miracle run unless they lose a lot early on. So, XL versus Rogue was the third game of that day. XL obviously coming off the back of a win against G2, feeling high and mighty about themselves, whereas Rogue was trying, I guess, to show that, hey, well, if G2 can beat them, we can. Well, they were in for a or sour surprise because XL, I don't know, maybe they were living in the heads of Rogue or something, like scaring them, like, hey, we beat G2, imagine, like, don't even think about you being able to defeat us. But Rogue played incredibly scared, and this is not something that we've seen from Rogue in the entire split, right? They can play conservative and they can play controlled, but never scared, and that's actually how it felt they were playing against XL. And XL, credit to them, obviously, took great advantage of this. They were given this freedom, had an early lead, and never really let go of this. And even though I have to say, in part, Rogue tried to keep up with the gold, and they did it pretty reasonably against XL, I still think that this was not the showing Rogue should have had against XL. Whereas XL was suddenly playing like a top team, punching every little mistake. Maybe it was for them also like, hey, we've got nothing to lose anymore. We're already in a bad spot. Let's just go all out and see what happens. But it worked for them. Whatever they did, whatever whispers they had in their ears, yeah, it worked. And it was a pretty incredible thing to see. Then we had Fnatic versus Misfits, and Fnatic got ahead early actually because of an invade from Selfmade. And you would think, okay, Fnatic, a top tier team, they will be able to convert this early lead into something more, right? Well, Misfits had other plans because as the game progressed, you could see that Fnatic, once again, when it came to the actual team fighting, they were having trouble.
Frontline, Vander looking for a flank position here. Hylissang knows he's there. Vander still can step forward, the dragon down to about 1,000. And Ender, you promised me a fight, and it looks like Misfits are the ones to start the fray. Hylissang jumping away, the onslaught of shadows hits up to 2. Himit does a massive knob on the back line. Already that's 2 down. Misfits can clean this one up. Cobby can jump as much as he likes. It's hopscotch for the Tristana, and Misfits will clean up the fight in the end.
Look, Matic, that wasn't hopscotch, that was hop squash from that Tristana, absolutely destroying it. No threat on the Tristana whatsoever.
And I think that this is obviously very concerning. I'll talk later in my team review at the end of the video about what I think about Fnatic and the causes of this, but this is actually very problematic heading into the playoffs, that Fnatic does not know how to engage in these team fights. And that is something that we have seen before a bit, actually, where they needed to kind of lean on their laning phase to get ahead so much that they would just be too strong for the enemy to do anything in a team fight. But when it came to coordination, they haven't always had the best performance in team fights. And that is something I hope for their sake, obviously, they will address, because this is just a team with too many good players on it to perform so poorly when it comes overall to the split, right? But Misfits, to their credit, once again, they struck back really well. They knew exactly how to counter Fnatic, I think, in the later stages. It wasn't a clean game, don't get me wrong, right? But it still felt that Fnatic just kept grasping at opportunities that weren't there. And off the back of that, they would lose the game eventually, which, you know, they did. And Misfits kept their playoffs hopes alive, whereas Fnatic was actually now in a dire spot and could have missed out on the playoffs. And then we went to G2 versus Mad Lions, which was the match of the week. And I think rightfully so, because it ended up being a pretty fun match to watch. It wasn't like a very clean game in any sense, but on G2 sides, we had Rexa in the jungle for Jankos, which he had to pick kind of because lots of junglers were banned. And in the support role, which made me very happy, was Veigar for Mickey X. And I'm a Veigar main. I love Veigar. I love everything. It's my favorite champion. So that was very exciting to see. However, it didn't really work out for G2. You could see that they didn't have a lot of maybe experience with playing this composition, or rather Mad Lions felt very confident going into this matchup, where Elyoya was confidently out jungling Jankos in this game. Very impressive performance from him overall. Whereas in the top lane you had Wunder on a Sion who died 8 times over the course of the game. It was a horrible performance, and still he was out farming Armut in the top lane. So that was a bit weird. But it's a Sion, right? So even in his death, he can farm a lot, I guess. But it was just a funny thing to happen. Mad Lions played the map very well. G2 played the map pretty poorly. they were trying to abuse the fact that Veigar in combination with a few runes and that new item, the Horizon Focus, can just spam his cage and offer a lot of zoning control. But Mad Lions played around it pretty well, and I think G2 didn't use that setup well enough over the course of the game. Still, it's G2, right? They're just gonna have a bit more fun, play a bit more loosely. At the end of the split, when they've already qualified, see what they can do, what things can happen. I don't think they're really worried about it. But Mad Lions, an incredible performance from them, and with that win locked in a 3rd place in the regular spring split. And then on day 3, we had so many scenarios left happening. There were still 5 teams that could lock in a playoff spot with only 3 spots remaining. It was obviously very exciting. There were a lot of scenarios in which any team could still make it. But a lot of it hinged on the first day. It was Vitality versus Misfits. Many teams would want a Vitality win to keep the dreams alive, whereas Misfits would only need a win for themselves, really, to keep their own dreams alive. Now, looking at the first game, Misfits had the opportunity to win this game pretty confidently and keep the dreams alive. Vitality had a weird pick in picking Gnar first in the game, giving Misfits Rel and Hecarim, which are considered to be 2 of the strongest champions in the game at the moment. And Misfits also locked in a Zoe, which is a throwback obviously to the first week, where Veteo, their mid laner, popped off on their Zoe. Now, the early game was really quiet. Misfits got 2 Drakes pretty easily, but Vitality slowly started turning things around, and in team fights they were clearly the better team. And obviously really strange to see Misfits that get so many good picks early on, right, not being able to convert this. Maybe there was a lot of pressure on them because this win was a must win in order to keep the dreams alive, really. And this is where it all culminated into being this pressing, suffocating pressure, rather. But I think Crownshot had maybe the best game he has played in this split yet on the Xayah. Was snowballed early on. He had like 4 kills very early into the game, so he was way ahead of any of the Misfits players and kept shredding through them in the fights, positioned really well. And yeah, maybe it was also for Vitality, right? No pressure for them anymore, so they could play more freely, play more confidently. Very dominating win for Vitality here. Now, this meant that automatically SK Gaming and Fnatic were also locked into the playoffs, and there was only 1 spot left to give, which would go to XL or Schalke 04, which happened in game number 2 of the day. Schalke had a very good composition. They had a very impressive Nocturne mid Karthus jungle duo, which the goal was very simple. Both those champions press the ult and something dies, right? If Nocturne dives with the ult, deals a lot of damage and it just doesn't die yet, Karthus presses ult and now it's definitely dead. And it was all aimed at killing Patrick early on. Obviously XL's hard carry, who had been carrying them for a long time. And it worked out. It worked out really well, and I think this clip that I'm about to show you really shows just how well this composition works for Schalke 04.
Set up around it. There's a TP for Cries if he wants to join this. Dan, there's quite a lot of damage there to limit with the infected cleaver. Abadage has a flank position. There's a ward. Paranoia, Cannibal, flying! The Requiem, Praetor, whatever gods you do, XL, because immediately they are just deleted off the map. Gilius sings a song and their souls are sent to Valhalla. Dan killed off in the end. It's triples.
This was kind of the tone of the game, honestly. This continued to happen, this snowballed throughout the game, and XL, even though this was their fight, you know, and they had been playing so well against G2. They'd been playing so well against Rogue and toppled the 2 top teams, the undisputed 2 top teams in the LEC against a team like Schalke 04, who had been down and almost out of playoff contention for a while. They just didn't make it happen. Maybe their energy was out, maybe it was again the pressure, maybe the mental block. Also, I have to say though, Schalke 04 played it so well. Their draft was exquisite, so to say. Very good targeting from them, and very impressive for them to step it up, and they locked in their playoff spot as well. Now, then we had Mad Lions versus Astralis, which didn't matter for the standings in any way whatsoever. Mad Lions had already locked in their spot in the top 3 as number 3, obviously, no matter what result it would give because of head-to-heads. And Astralis, well, they were 10th, but I guess with a win would still become 9th, but no matter. I'm not going to spend too much time discussing this game because Mad Lions decided to have a bit of fun. They swapped all their roles. They had Oyoya in the mid lane, they had Armut in the jungle, Kaiser in the top lane. So yeah, you can figure that this was an incredible shuffle. And they lost the game, but honestly, like, I'm not gonna take this seriously. But good for them having a bit of fun, right? G2 versus SK Gaming. For SK Gaming, this didn't matter anymore, obviously, because they would already be in the playoffs. 5th or 6th, I think, in the standings. It was the only way for them to influence this a bit. But for Fnatic, actually, who played later, this would matter a bit because a G2 win would make sure that Fnatic would be in the lower brackets, I think, if they also lost against Rogue, whereas an SK win would still give them some hope of being in the upper bracket of the playoffs. So anyway, this game, G2 was just very strong. I guess they didn't fully commit to the 0-3 memes. On every front, they were just playing super well. I think incredible performance this time around from Jankos, who I guess was memed a lot for his Rek'Sai performance, but wanted to show that, hey, listen, I can play very well. After all, started incredibly strong with the Lilia, died a lot later on, but still, the early game, he was so dominant that it just snowballed throughout the game, and G2 easily won against SK Gaming, and also locked in the #1 spot at the end of the season. Then we had Rogue vs Fnatic, the game that a lot of pressure was on Fnatic, obviously, perform well, to show that you're not going 0-3 and that you actually are a top team. Unfortunately for them, Rogue had other plans. They did not have good experiences playing against Excel on the day before, so they were just coming out swinging. Incredibly dominant performance from Rogue. Larsen was playing incredibly well. Inspired was playing incredibly well. Trimby and Hansama were playing much better than Fnatic overall. But the standout player to me in the game was absolutely Odoamne, who on the Gnar was absolutely tearing Fnatic apart. And we have a good clip showing just what I mean by this.
But the fights aren't working out in their favor. Trimby has no flash, but there's a TP behind.
Trimby not quite that tanky yet. Niski now moving in. The rest of the team can't collapse. Upset ultimate is not quite available. Has no way to follow this up. Hansama coming in. The heal. Hylissang flashing forward. Hylissang going to grab another. And Hilly is a man on a mission. That's 100% kill participation already at this point in the game. Larsen's here. TP's coming in. They need to finish the job. Upset can find the snare, but they have to be careful here. If they burn too many cooldowns, they could get caught out. Niski dash forward. Hansama just barely able to make it out. Eyes on Larsen, though. He may be the one who has been caught out. Odoamne coming in. That's the Meganar. Odoamne coming in. That's the Meganar. 3 into the wall. Fnatic don't see it coming, but Odoamne digging.
And once again, this was the tone of the game. Rogue was just too strong against Fnatic, and Fnatic seemed a bit hopeless and grasping at straws. So that means that at the end of the weekend, these were the standings. G2 lock in first place with 14 wins and 4 losses. Then we have Rogue also at 14 wins and 4 losses, but obviously they had to head against G2 they lose, which is why they are second. Mad Lions at third with 10 wins and 8 losses. Schalke 04 at 9 and 9 in 4th place because of their overall results. Fnatic in 5th place at 9 and 9. SK Gaming in 6th with 8 wins and 10 losses. Misfits, unfortunately, lose the tiebreaker against SK Gaming and have an 8 win and 10 score as well. Excel at 7 wins and 11 losses. Origin, or, well, I mean, Astralis at 6 wins and 12 losses. Vitality ends the split in last place with 5 wins and 13 losses overall. And with these standings, obviously with our top 6 locked in, G2 could pick their opponent for the upper bracket, which will be G2 versus Schalke 04, and the other match will be Rogue versus Mad Lions. In the lower bracket, we'll have Fnatic versus SK as the first game of the weekend, and determining, well, it's not upcoming weekend, but the weekend after, you know, we have a bit of a break, but determining which of those teams will keep their playoffs hopes alive, and keeps getting a shot at making it to Reykjavik in Iceland, I suppose. Now, I'll do a preview video specifically for the playoffs, much like I do for any regular week. So I'll discuss it more then. Now, for some quick thoughts on the teams overall. I guess G2, obviously, well, the end of the split wasn't too pretty, them losing twice, but it's still G2. Best of 5 is when they're going to take things seriously, and I still expect them to be very strong. Rogue, still undisputed, second best team in the league in my opinion, even though they also lost against Excel, which wasn't pretty. Overall, their play is just very innovative. We saw Trimby with yet another champion when he played Cho'Gath support. It was just incredible overall. Mad Lions, actually a bit surprised that they ended up third. I didn't think they would be able to do so, especially when I looked at the start of the split. I still think everything below G2 and Rogue is just a full tier below and has to step it up massively in the playoffs if they even want to have a chance of reaching the finals. But Mad Lions look pretty good. Overall, I think their bot lane is still their weak spot, but at least the top side of the map is looking solid overall. Schalke 04, I don't know how they keep doing it, but fourth place, okay, sure. This is a team obviously with very talented players on them, but if they are not going to be able to keep that consistent performance, then I don't even think they will make a lot of progress over the course of the year, because you could see that in week 2 and 3 this team was solid. They were online, they were on point, and then everything just crumbled, and only when it was dire they changed things up and started making real progress and actually started playing far more aggressively. So I think that they need to review how they want to progress over the course of a split. I think that maybe for too long they were maybe set on wanting to play a certain style, and I think that this is something they absolutely need to address. And we have Fnatic, and I think Fnatic is maybe the biggest disappointment of the split. Ending in 5th place is absolutely disgraceful. Now, I have to say, and this is a statement that Fnatic made, that they had issues heading into the final weekend. Hillesang and one of their coaches, Toki, contracted the coronavirus, so they had to take all of these precautions, couldn't stick to the regular schedule, couldn't practice as they normally would, which obviously has influenced their performance over the weekend and is going to be a big contributor to that 0-3 showing. Still, they had 6 losses in the rest of the split as well. So even if you counted those out, they wouldn't be top 2. If you give them all these 3 wins. So I think that is really bad. I think they are absolutely in a bad state, and I think this team just doesn't have the identity they want to. Now, heading into the best of 5s, I'm giving them some leeway, because this is where teams that are a bit more inconsistent or a bit more volatile generally can find more consistency in feeling their opponents out first, and I think that it's something Fnatic can do as well. But overall, an incredibly disappointing split from this team overall. I think that is no surprise or no shocking thing to say. Then SK Gaming, obviously very disappointing when they have a top 4 spot in the LEC for a week, and everybody's like, oh wow, this team is coming online so quickly. Me included, I was bought on this hype train, right? Oh wow, these rookies, these are the Mad Lions of this year. Like we saw the Mad Lions surge last year, right? And then obviously when the final weekend comes and they have to get this win to absolutely ensure themselves of a spot in the playoffs, that they crumble and falter and also go on a 3-game loss streak, which is incredibly poor for them. So yeah, I don't think that in the playoffs now they are gonna amount to much, but I'll discuss the playoffs later. Still a very poor showing from them overall, and this is a team, obviously a lot of rookies, so I'm gonna give them time, give them benefit of the doubt. They have shown a lot of promise, but I think to end the regular split on this note is disappointed too many. Misfits then, I think that in the final weekend actually they showed a lot of promise. They have maybe a bit more consistently shown a bit more growth than when they were in a slump than Schalke, who were very explosive growth towards the end. I think Misfits is a bit more steady. I still think that this lineup is a playoffs contender for summer, and I think that I wouldn't make changes to this lineup, just continue perfecting what they are doing now and find that consistency, because we have 2 rookies. Veteo is mostly rookie, I guess. Hirit is really has been around for a while, but Veteo is absolutely the rookie on that roster. So keep perfecting their performance. Overall, I wouldn't say I'm super disappointed with their performance. Excel, I am disappointed in. I think that they overall in this split had good showings, and then I don't know, they didn't reinvent for too long. Now their games against G2 and Excel and Rogue show that this team can absolutely live up to the moment when they need to and has a lot of firepower. But what are you gonna do if you don't show up in the moment, right? So find that consistency as well. Be more adaptable is absolutely what I want to see from Excel. Then Astralis. Yeah, I mean, what am I gonna do with Astralis? It's like the team has made steady progress overall. We've seen they recently announced that Maggie Felix also will be playing them for them in the summer split. Steady progress for them. Not a top tier contender, but maybe in summer split they're going to be able to do something in and contest for playoffs. Whereas Vitality, they came, I guess, online a bit too late when everything was too dire and they couldn't perform what would maybe more legitimately be a miracle run for them if they actually made it to the top 6. But yeah, it's a dire situation for them to be in. I think that their bot lane now is actually pretty good. Skeens has shown that he can play more proactively, so I think around building around these three. Shigen is a rookie, so give him another split to show what he's worth. But their mid lane is a problem, I think. So yeah, I'm very disappointed with Vitality. I think that going into the split with comp on the roster, I think this roster had a lot of potential. But yeah, they just absolutely were shattered. So yeah, that's sucks for them. And now for some LEC Super Fantasy lobby updates. Because yes, even though the regular split has ended, we are still continuing to play in the playoffs. You can still earn points there. And I think this is going to be super interesting because at some point you're going to have to kind of all in on one of the teams. And some people might make the wrong decisions or might get a bit unlucky. So in first place at the moment we have Witta with 5,461 points, then Stipan at 5,304 points. I'm now in third place with 5,128 points. Loco X at 5,031. Then we have Bene in fifth place with 4,801 points. Lucky Reed at 4,693. Closely followed by Never Lucky with 4,609. Vladimir at 4,554 points in 8th place. Panda Bearlies at 4,439. And in 10th place in the top 10, we have Goldfire 432 at 4,382 points. So that was it for my LEC recap of this week. I know it's been a bit of a long one, but the weekend was long as well, so there was a lot to cover and a lot to discuss in my opinion. Let me know what you thought of the weekend. Did you think it was going to play out this way? Let me know in the comments below. What were highlight moments for you? Also, please let me know. Maybe I missed something you think, oh, you should have absolutely mentioned that. That's valuable criticism, and also love to discuss the matches in general with you. So if you like this content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I know it's a long way now until the playoffs start. Well, relatively long, it's like 2 weeks, right? But I'm trying to get a lot of content going, interviews with some of the teams that may have been eliminated already just to hear their thoughts on the split. I also did some recordings over the course of the weekend overall. So stay tuned, have some extra content, and hope you enjoy your day.